here. Right, so thanks to those of you who signed in and joined us. So the Golden Knights, just to kind of do a quick overview about the mixed bag tournament we have coming up as part of the Classic. I've got a handful of slides covering some main points, and then I kind of want to open the floor just to questions for anybody who's participating. If there's something I didn't cover, or you want some clarity, or just want to talk fishing a little bit. I know Donald already provided some tips and tricks on his Facebook Live a week and a half ago, so I'll refer to that too if any of you want to check that out. But for the moment, I'll just go ahead and start the presentation, and please, yeah, just let me know during or after when you have questions. Oh, Bill, I have no screen sharing at the moment.
Okay, hold on, just a second.
Yep, no problem.
Oh, yeah, I didn't configure this meeting, so it was, there we go. You should now.
All right, let's try that again. There we go. Perfect. All right. All right, you guys see that now?
Yep.
We do. Yep.
All right.
Good.
So cool. Just to start things off. So as I think everybody here is aware, this is our kind of inaugural event for the Gulf Coast Classic. And as part of that, we've set up a 2.5-day mixed bag tournament. So effectively, mixed bag means instead of targeting one large species, we're challenging folks to catch multiple species. We ended up setting up a list of 25 select target species, and we've also lumped in 5 wild cards with that. Well, those wild cards are meant to cover the weird, interesting things you may hit along the way, but we also have one set up where we are working with Clean Horizons, a local beach cleanup group, where if you come on Friday, you can pick up a cleanup stack from them at the Classic itself. Or if you can't make it in that day, collect in your own bag, bring in the trash you've collected while fishing on Saturday, and we'll add that as kind of 1 point on your wild card score. In the end, after 2.5 days, the highest total number of species off the list plus wild cards will be declared the winner. We'll get into it a little bit more. The tournament format is called Catch, Photo, Release. So the weigh-in will really just be an award ceremony. We will weigh the trash for a trash-related prize, but all of the actual fish submitted will be via pictures through the website. So for the fishing itself, fishing starts at first light in Gulf Shores on May 4th. So 5:39 a.m. lines in, and we'll go all the way until May 6th at noon. That'll give us about an hour to tally up the results, and then we'll have an award ceremony at 1 o'clock. The where we'll get into, we're centering this on Gulf State Park, where we're hosting the event. We'd love to have people fish Lake Shelby there, as well as the beachfront doing some surf casting. But because we know people are heading in from other areas or maybe staying outside of the park, we have a bit more of an extensive boundary map, and we'll cover that in a moment. But there's quite a bit of area you can fish, and given the diverse fishing, you're probably going to want to. Regarding eligibility, we're going to have 2 divisions, an adult and a youth under 18 division. And anyone who's registered to take part in the Gulf Coast Classic, which you can do ahead of time on the website, is eligible to fish this event. The only other thing we ask you to do is go on to the Classic website and complete a waiver. So if you click on the mixed bag link at the top of the Classic website, right near the top of that, you're going to see a link to both the adult and youth waiver. So fill out the adult for yourself, and if you have any minors with you and they're going to fish, just make sure you fill that out. It can either be turned in person, or you can email it to us through the website, and there should be an email address up there for that. Finally, on this page, go back one. Finally, on that page, the last thing was the how, and all I was covering there is boats, shorebound, kayaks. Everybody's in one division. So if you're over 18, whether you fish from shore, you bring a motorboat, you're competing against each other. Same thing on the youth side. Kayak, motorboat, youth, all one division. So the fish, just real quick, this will be on the official rules as well to help you keep track. But these are the 25 species plus 5 wild cards that we're working with. So this thing is kicking my butt right now. Let me go back to the previous slide for you. So yeah, it's primarily saltwater species, although because Lake Shelby is brackish and there are plenty of freshwater options within 10, 15 miles of the park as well. If you're staying elsewhere, we have included some stuff. So species range everywhere from, black bass, largemouth, choctaw, spotted, whatever it may be you find, to sunfish, to speckled trout, flounder, pompano, even some bigger game like tarpon and cobia. The key thing to remember, though, is all fish are created equal with regards to this contest. If you catch a bluegill, it counts the same as a tarpon. So think about that when you're planning your trip. If you're fishing over the course of multiple days, it's likely going to be a heck of a lot easier to get on a bluegill and a bass than it is to go hop in your boat and try to chase a tarpon somewhere on the coast, unless you already have plans to go out with Chip Smith on one of these days before he speaks. The waters, like I said, boundaries are fairly extensive. So Gulf Shores is right here in the lower center of the image on the left. The park itself, we can zoom in on a map in Google once I'm done with everything, has both Lake Shelby, which is a brackish water system. And if you listen to Donald's presentation that's posted on the Facebook page, it includes everything from crappie and bluegill to largemouth to redfish to specks and anything else that might swim in from the ocean on a given day. Literally right across the street, take the walkway over the 3-lane highway, and you have a whole bunch of beachfront. If the waves aren't too bad, surf casting will open you up to a whole another slew of species, including things like pompano. But again, if you're staying elsewhere, everywhere within those red lines on the left, which effectively extend from Mobile Bay to Pensacola Bay, are within, are fair game. So if you happen to be staying closer to Pensacola on this trip, the Classic only has events going on, Friday from 8 a.m. to about 5 p.m. So you get home and you're out there, you catch fish closer to where you're staying, that qualifies towards the tournament. Go ahead and submit them through the portal we're going to talk about in a minute. Only warning about this is, and Catch was kind enough to put an article up on the Classic website. Be careful and make sure you have the correct fishing license. So the map on the right, everything blue is a saltwater license in Alabama. So more than likely, if you're fishing Alabama, saltwater license is going to cover you most of the places you're fishing during this tournament. If you cross the border over in Perdido Key into Florida, make sure you have that Florida license. And if you read through the article he posted, it'll spell out a little bit more on where you need a salt versus fresh license for Florida. So submitting your catch. So as I mentioned, this is what's called a catch photo release tournament. So these have become popular in the last few years, especially during COVID, where they weren't hosting big weigh-in events. Effectively, you're going to be responsible for taking an identifiable photo of your fish and submitting it to us to approve and add to the rankings. So rules are pretty simple on this. Whole fish should be in the picture. We need enough detail to identify the fish. We've run into issues with this in some of the club contests where it's a blurry cell phone picture, there's water on the lens, the fish is flipping. Do your best to make sure that photo that you submit is something where the judges can confirm, yes, this is a speckled trout, or yes, this is a redfish, whatever it may be. So catch photo release. While you do not have to release it, pompano is delicious, so are whiting, so are a whole bunch of these other species. At the time of the photo, we want it while the fish is alive, so right after you catch it. If it goes in your cooler after that, that's great, invite me over for dinner. Finally, last two things, we need to verify you caught it on the day and that you caught it on a fly rod. So you either need to have your fly or the fly rod visible in your picture. And if it's the fly, just a note, flies should not be on treble hooks. That's one of the rules we put in place. So single hooks, or if it's a tandem fly, 2 single hooks on it. And lastly, there will be an identification code. So this is going to be released on the mixed bag section of the website, 5 a.m. on Thursday. So before we go live, it'll update. You'll have access to that right there. In my example, which I did this afternoon real quick in the backyard, I wrote it on a sheet of paper. Fair warning, anybody who's done some of the kayak tournaments and other things can attest, paper does not last a long time when you're near the water. So probably the best recommendation you can make is write it on the back of your hand. So just Sharpie it on your hand. It'll only be a 5 or 6 digit code. And that way, just make sure your hand's in the picture when you take the picture. And this will just verify to us that you caught it on the day in question. Submission portal itself. So we ended up going about this on our own as opposed to using one of the popular apps out there. So same as with the ID code, as of 5 a.m. on Thursday morning, there's going to be a link at the top of the mixed bag page of the website to the submission portal. So you can see an empty example of it on the right side of the page. All you need to do is fill out your name, select adult or youth under the division dropdown, and then select your species under the select species. There is a search tab there too, so you do not have to scroll through 25 species looking for the one you found. If you enter a wildcard, assuming you know what the species is, go ahead and type it into the box. If you're unsure, Ben, myself, Bill, Ketch, we'll all kind of sort through it and figure out what we're looking at, and we'll ID it for you. But if you can give us a starting point, that'd be greatly appreciated. Once you've done that, you can hit the choose file button, attach the image, hit send, and once you've done that, it should give you a thank you for contacting us notice at the top. If for some reason you get an error, go ahead and submit your email or submit your picture to mixedbag@ffigcc.org, and that'll be right on the submission page. So you don't need to write it down now. You'll just find it, when you need it. All right. So finally, last two things before I open it up to questions. We'll also have a leaderboard online. I know people are going to want to know what's going on as it's happening. So game plan as of now is the leaderboard link will go live also on that mixed bag page at noon on Thursday. We'll have a top 10 for each division shown on that page. And we're also going to keep updating it with pictures of some of the recent catches. So you'll have an idea of the types of fish people are catching, not just the numbers. Because I'm doing this manually based on the submissions I get, it won't be instant update. What we're going to end up doing is twice on Thursday, 4 times on Friday, and then hourly until 11 a.m. on Saturday, we'll be updating those rankings. Once 11 a.m. hits on Saturday, you'll have 1 more hour to fish, and we're just going to leave it as wait and see. We want to make sure people are surprised when the final results come out at 1 p.m. And last thing, award ceremony. So it's going to take place on the Learning Campus at 1 p.m. on Saturday. I believe, Donald, is it in the Conservation Hall you want to do it? We had talked about a few different options.
Yes, in the Conservation Hall.
Yeah. So it'll be in the Conservation Hall right at 1 p.m. We'll be giving out awards for first and second place in both the adult and youth divisions, as well as a unique catch award. This will be effectively voted on by the tournament directors along with the companies that were donating towards that award. And it's going to go to, a rarer catch or a catch that stands out, and it's going to be completely subjective, but something fun. We're hoping people will have some interesting stuff. I know Council President AJ Rosenbaum has stated he's going to go catch an oyster toadfish just so he can win it. But we'll find something good for that. We are doing the beach cleanup award as well. If you show up a little early, Clean Horizons should be bringing a scale, and we'll actually be weighing the trash out in that case. And whoever has the most trash, along with getting, a point for bringing the trash added to your total, you will be awarded the beach cleanup award, which we're still working on, but it'll include some swag from the event and possibly some other things depending what we have. Regarding first and second place for the adult division, so this is the big one and probably the one most of you guys care about, as I don't think we have any youth fishers on tonight. You're looking at a Orvis Recon 8-weight rod with matching Hydros reel and Pro Series line. That's about $1,000 combo right there to start with. A gift card from Bahio for a pair of sunglasses of your choice. A 1-year subscription to On the Fly magazine, and coffee from Flyline Coffee Co., a new startup coffee company by a fellow fly fisher up in Birmingham. Second place in the adult division, you'll be getting a gift card for those Bahio sunglasses. And the youth division, first place will be a Orvis Clearwater outfit provided by Nola Fly Guy, along with those Bahio sunglasses as well. And second place will be Bahio sunglasses for the youth division. That pretty much covers the basics. And at this point, I just want to open it up and start a conversation, hear what questions you guys have and what gaps you'd like to have filled in before we get started on this.
I have one caveat, Chris.
Hang on.
That is, when you was talking about saltwater license with most of the waters in Alabama, you do have to have a freshwater license to fish Shelby Lakes in Gulf State Park.
Okay, I thought Ketch had put on his write-up that you did not. So that is good to know, and I will make sure that's adjusted, or I may have misread what Ketch had posted. So one moment, let me mute and deal with that.
Catch, we can't hear you.
So Donald, the Shelby Lakes, the Middle Lake, Little Lake, that's freshwater only or fresh and salt for Alabama?
That is that you have to have a freshwater license to fish those lakes. And there's a weir right off of State Park Road that's where the saltwater fish kind of come in and mix with everything.
Huh?
But you have to have a freshwater license to fish off that road.
Gotcha.
You don't need a saltwater license at all to fish Shelby Lakes, but you definitely need a freshwater license.
Sure.
And I see a lot of people making that mistake, and I see a lot of people getting tickets. So I don't want nobody getting tickets.
No,
Right.
no, no.
Did I misread that, Ketch, on the article you had posted then, or do we need to tweak that?
We might need to tweak it. I was going based on the geographical boundaries that they were talking about on the saltwater licensing.
And Alabama's a little odd, even though that is brackish water in Shelby Lakes. It is technically considered a freshwater lake, so you have to have a freshwater license to fish freshwater lakes. Just kind of the weird little thing. Geographically, it's the closest freshwater lake to the Gulf of Mexico anywhere in the U.S. I mean, it's literally across the street. But that doesn't change the fact that you have to have a freshwater license, and the game wardens will write you a ticket. They write everybody a ticket. They try to be nice at first, and probably half the people are nice back. The other half get a ticket.
Good. Well, noted. We'll tweak that on there and make sure people are aware then.
And for those that are fishing, the Jack Crevalle, they were running the beach really hard Sunday and Saturday. There were some nice jacks out there. The Spanish have been in for a few weeks now. The Kings have made it to Pensacola Pier. I don't know if they've made it past it. I don't think they've got any on the Gulf State Park Pier. I haven't checked today. The pompano are still biting really good, and this is probably the best time of year to catch some pompano. They are, and we've got some big pompano here. We got big bluefish. Sheep's head's going to be a little tough. Not that you can't catch them, but the breeding season is kind of over, so they're still here. They're here all year long, but they're just harder to catch right now because they're just not in the sheer numbers, really. Cobia should be here by the time the tournament comes, but they haven't arrived yet. They were at the Pensacola Pier and they've been at the Navarre Pier, but they have not been here yet. But they should be in by the end of the week. It's only a few days away, and it's not that far from Pensacola to here, so they should be swimming over. So that's kind of yeah.
But one thing, do you have recommendations outside of the park? So I was going to potentially just pull up a Google map for folks who are, because again, we only have things in the park from 8 a.m. to 5 each day. So there may be times before or after when they're looking to fish elsewhere. I know Little Lagoon Pass. Do you have any experience with the Fort Morgan Pier they put up last fall again?
Yeah. Fort Morgan Pier is pretty good. It's a little tight to fish, but you can actually fish off the beaches all around Fort Morgan itself. If you enter the fort, you got to pay the access fee, but if you're just walking the beach, you don't have to pay the access fee to go you have to pay the access fee that is required to go in the fort, if that makes sense. Little Lagoon, which is about 4 miles down from 59. It has some good fishing, but it's hard to fish from the Fort Morgan side, the bay side.
Okay.
But there are a lot of places to fish the beach here. Now, I will tell you, this weekend coming up is also a gigantic volleyball tournament on the beach. Now, it does not affect Gulf State Park beaches because they don't have the tournament at Gulf State Park. However, that does mean a lot more foot traffic in Gulf State Park because they actually kind of close that section of beach, and that's where a lot of people, go to the beach. Now, a lot of backwaters here to fish, and I mean a lot of backwaters. Canal Road, you can fish almost every single inch of Canal Road, and there are some fantastic fishing back there. There is a place called Bon Secure Bay, and they have, I will tell you that the place I fish, which is, it's, I think, 1.2 miles from the house, is called Aquila Seafood or Billy's Seafood. And there is ample redfish and trout and flounder, and it's really simple, easy fishing. It's got grass, it's got oysters, there's a lot of places to fish here. They started hitting poppers or topwater mid last week. So the waters here is pretty warm right now. Even in the back areas, we did drop temperature a little bit with all the rain that we had 2 days ago. But it really just pushed the fish a little bit farther down, and we're not supposed to get any major rain until actually, that's probably any rain until Friday, but it's very light chance on Friday. So it shouldn't mess with the salinity much at all. Most of that runoff has already happened. If you go up towards Mobile, in Mobile Bay, and the backwaters up in there by the Three Rivers, as they call it, some fantastic fishing up there. Easy to get to. It's only like 45 minutes from here. And it offers some wonderful fishing and really easy access from a lot of shores, or if you have a kayak or a small boat, really easy to get to as well. Over towards Pensacola area, if you go towards Perdido Beach, which is Perdido Key, there's Perdido Pass. It's a little hard to fly fish there just because it's a popular place to fish. However, it's filled with fish. If you can access the east side of Perdido Pass, you can walk that entire beach, and there's hardly anybody fishing from that side of the beach. Most people fish from the seawall on the west side, so it kind of frees up some fishing areas for fly fishers. The farther you get towards Florida, you can go. You go all the way to Pensacola Bay. Is that correct?
Correct. Yes.
Okay. So you've got Johnson Beach over there, which is wonderful for fly fishing. Crystal clear waters, white sands on one side, and if you turn around and walk, to north just a little bit, it's got back bays back there, and it's the front side of Big Lagoon. And Big Lagoon Park, I think you have to pay to get into the state park, but you can actually fish Big Lagoon itself without having to pay. And that, again, some wonderful inshore fishery over there. Freshwater fishing is a little limited here. Shelby Lakes is probably the most popular place you're going to find for freshwater fishing. And there is a lot of places where you can fish from shore. They've got docks you can fish from. They've got a fishing weir. They've got a couple 100 yards over by the dog park that you can walk, and that's usually where I try to fish, and that is extremely wadeable. You can go about 100 yards out, and it might be waist deep. It's very shallow.
Wow. It's
very gradual. And if you got somebody that wants to, that you're learning how to cast, fantastic place to do it. That's why I practice my two-handed casting, because you can wade out there and not have to worry about nothing. And there's no jet skis allowed there in the Shelby Lakes. So for those of us that fish and don't really care for the jet ski guys, it's a wonderful place to fish. There's in Shelby Lakes itself, remember, freshwater fishing license, but they have some very nice bass, some very nice brim, good crappie. You can catch and Glenn catch there, and AJ. Well, AJ was with us. I told him there's redfish and bass. You know, you can see a bass and a redfish within 5 minutes, and of course everybody thinks you're full of crap. I mean, because it just doesn't happen that often. But we were standing there at there's a kayak launch where they rent kayaks, and saw a bass go by. It's probably 10, 12 inches. I mean, nothing big, And then probably, I don't know, 18-inch redfish going after the bass. So I mean, they're there, and there's some big redfish in there, and there's some big bass. I've won big bass in there on a tournament, two tournaments. I got I think 15th place out of a tournament, and I was, of course, I mean, that was not a fly fishing tournament. I was competing with everybody else across the nation, and I still got 15th, so I felt really good about that. But there's some fish in there. That's now colors of flies. Shelby Lakes is usually pretty stained, so if you're going to fish in there, keep that in mind. It's a really dark reddish kind of stain. Use the appropriate colored flies. Our beaches here have really, really white sugar fine sand bottoms. So if you're going to use a fly that's on the bottom, keep that in mind. Our waters aren't crystal clear, but they're not turquoise blue either. They're kind of in between, if that makes sense. It's kind of a greenish blue. And I like chartreuse, I like white, and I like red and white. And that's usually what works for me. When I go over to Shelby Lakes, I use blues, blacks, red and whites work. And I even use chartreuse with white stripes on it. And it seems to work for the bass over there pretty darn well. All right, that's it. Anything else?
That was awesome, Donald. Thank you. So for the anglers looking to fish the tournament, any questions at this point? You're on mute, Brian.
On the form, was there a spot? Did you want to know the location, or just is that not pertinent? Okay.
No, it's a wide enough area that we're pretty comfortable you're fishing somewhere within it. So I mean, if you're going to make it back, especially on Saturday to the weigh-in, you're not driving outside of those boundaries we created.
Okay.
Yep, just fly visible or fly rod visible in the image, and select your division and which fish it is. If you select the wrong fish, we'll just adjust it for you, and probably just shoot you an email or something to let you know, because we should have everyone's email from the admission registration. Anyone else?
If you're a new time fly fishing and you've never really fished in that area, you mentioned some good areas. Is there anything anywhere else you might recommend that's easy walking access?
So I think, go ahead, Donald.
Go ahead.
Okay. So based off of the ones Donald talked about, on the Alabama side, Lake Shelby does have easy walking access right there. Depending on the winds, you could try the beachfront. If it's not too choppy, you could still wait out with, say, a Clauser's minnow type fly, and fish the surf, the first trough, things like that. And then on the Alabama side, probably the seagrass around Fort Morgan would be an easy walkable one. Or if you have a Florida license already, Johnson Beach, just past Perdido Key, would be your best bet. Lots of seagrass on the backside of that. And again, redfish, speckled trout, flounder, lizardfish, gar, all sorts of stuff Ben Roussel and I have pulled off there in recent years visiting. Anywhere else you would think of, Donald, for easy access?
No, I think that's pretty good. Now, Gulf State Park has, I think, like, I don't know, 30 or 50 something miles of walking trails. And all those walking trails, they walk, they go around that entire lake system. So there are numerous places to stop and fish. Even in the campground, you can walk through the campground and fish from the campground. There are so many places to fish. Keep in mind, you're still in the South, so there is alligators, and they are active.
Uh,
Got those-
Anything else? And anything else, Emily?
No, that's about my only question.
All right, well, it sounds good. Yeah, and anyone else curious about anything we haven't covered yet? If not, we can probably wrap it up for the evening. Again, you can always find myself, Donald, Ben Roussel, or any number of other members. I'm sure Catch as well when he's not busy on Friday or Saturday, and we'll be happy to point you guys in the right direction then as well. But thanks to everybody for tuning in tonight, and thank you, Bill and Catch, for getting this all set up, and Donald for that input.
All right, Chris, thanks.
Appreciate you guys. Have a great evening.
Thank you,
Bye. See
everyone.
y'all on Friday.